One of my favorite ways to close someone is to just say whatever thing they said they're struggling with that they're not sure about, you just say, hey, in a hypothetical world where that didn't exist, would you say yes? And whatever it is, if that thing doesn't exist and they say sure, then you literally now have only one thing you need to solve to get the sale, right? So if you're tired of having people give you obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, you just say, hey, if you had the time, would you do it? And if they say yes, then it's like, cool, let's figure out how to get you the time, right? And then you can solve one problem and make the deal. And the same thing is, hey, if your wife were on board, would you do it? Okay, cool. Then what do we need to do to figure out so she wouldn't be worried about it, right? And so whatever the thing is, you just say, hey, in a hypothetical world where that didn't exist, would you do it? Cool. And then you can close the one isolated variable to get the deal done.
Throw any random objection at me. Anything you've heard a client say, and I'll tell you how to respond right now, and I'll tell you the theory behind it. What's another objection?
You need to talk to my partner.
You need to talk to your partner? What would they be concerned about if they were in this room? No, I'm asking you.
Yeah, I guess that would force me to say what I'm concerned about.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And then you would say it. Go ahead and say it.
Money.
What about the money?
Too much.
It's too much. What about the money is too much? Is it all at once? Is it a cash flow issue? Is it paying all at once? So if the money were broken into a payment plan, would that be more palatable for you?
Yes.
Well, that's the solution. If you saw a proposal that allowed you to make 3 payments of $29.95, would that work for you?
Yeah.
Then we're done. Next, give me another objection.
This is a really good question. Doesn't matter if you sell B2C or B2B, to help them resolve any type of like money concern. It can also be used for this is not a priority concern. So you give them a choice. Well, I mean, you tell me, is it more expensive for you guys to prioritize this now, get the funding together, we help you get the targeted leads, and we get you to $10 million a month in revenue? Or is it more expensive for you guys just to, keep pushing it down the road? Your salespeople keep calling like you had mentioned, the low quality leads, and you guys just stay stuck at $5 million a month in revenue. Like, realistically, which is more expensive? And that gets the prospect thinking. You're not overhyping it, but you're getting them to think like,
oh my gosh, yeah, it's way more expensive if we keep pushing it down the road than if we just prioritize this now.
okay,
Here's what you say if someone says that they have to talk to their business partner, or they have to talk to their husband, or they have to talk to their wife before they make a decision. The first thing you do is say, well, what would happen if they said no? If they say, well, I would do it anyways, then boom, you close the sale. If they say, well, I don't think I would do it if they said no, then you ask, why do you think they'd be opposed to this? Now, obviously, they haven't even talked to their spouse yet, but they're going to give you the real reasons that they're actually against it, and then you can confront those. And then, if they still don't want to say yes after confronting those decisions, you then rely on past agreements. And so what that means is you say, well, do they know that you're struggling with this problem? Yes. Are they happy that you're struggling with the problem? Do they approve of the current condition you're in, that you're struggling? They say no. Then why would they be opposed to you fixing something they already don't approve of? And so you rely on the past to get them to say yes. And then at the very end you say, hey, at the end of the day, sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission, right? Right, and you close the deal. Raise your hand if you or your prospects present with this distortion. I'm busy, it's not a good time, maybe in the future. Anyone deal with these? This is a busy season for me. Got lots of stuff going on. As always, we never disagree with prospects because you're not in a fight. Totally get it. Do you want this to be something that lasts for the long term? That's a question. You're like, yeah. Do you think that you're going to be busy again in the future? Well, yeah. So you want this to last in the long run, and you do think you're going to be busy again in the future. Don't you think it'd be best to start now when you are busy? Because if you learn how to do it when you're busy, you'll be able to do it forever. I don't have any time in my day. You can't tell someone in a sale, hey, take out your phone, take out your hours by week, pull it up, oh look, 22 hours on social media. You've got time. So you say it differently. You say, you know what, I had the same issue, and I used to complain all the time about how I didn't have time to be successful and do the things I needed to do. And my wife got so sick and tired of me saying this, she pulled my phone out and she was like, look, I guess I just found your time, didn't I? And you can say it that way, and then the prospect feels better. It's not like, oh, I've got to overcome this one thing and then they'll buy. You got to keep peeling.
If you're having sales objections, this is literally the easiest way to overcome every objection that shows up in your sales process. First off, make a list of all the ones that are currently being asked of you. I got to talk to my wife. I got to go figure out if I can afford this. Whatever it is, make the list. Now here's the kicker. Make sure you ask every one of those questions in the sales process. See, professional salespeople deal with the objections in the discovery phase so they don't come up at the end. Amateurs don't do that, and then they deal with objection whack-a-mole where it's like, they said this and I overcame that, and then they brought this thing up and I gotta whack that thing down. No. Front load it in discovery. That way at the end, you might have one objection. It's like, well, I have this one question. Guess what? Add it to your list Ask it next time you get on a sales call.
Do this one thing before you overcome an objection, and you will be a boss every single time you get them during a sales appointment. But in order to do this, you need to forget the word rebuttal, because frankly, a rebuttal, it's like throwing a right hook. They say this, you punch back. This is combative. It does not build trust. So what we need to do first is ask a question. Then we can respond. And when we do this, it creates a really powerful phenomenon known as a knowledge gap. And I'll give you an example. Let's say a homeowner says to you, well, the other guy said he could eat my deductible. Now, our natural tendency is to overcome this objection by explaining it away. It's fraud. It's illegal. We can't do that. But what the homeowner's hearing is, you're just trying to justify me paying a higher price to you. So what we need to do is ask a question like, did the other contractor explain how they could eat your deductible? And when they respond, no, they just said they could, we've created a knowledge gap. That right there, that knowledge gap means that that homeowner is going to be far more receptive to hearing what you have to say. So there you have it. Ask a question before overcoming an objection.
So when I teach sales, the goal is not to get the person to buy. The goal is to get the person to decide. And I believe that people don't decide for only 3 reasons. And this comes from Albert Ellis. But people blame all the woes of their lives on circumstances, other people, and then ultimately themselves. And so when we're overcoming obstacles in a sale, we have to make sure that we are accounting for the circumstances, which is taking away time as a reason they can't do it, taking away money as a reason they can't do it, taking away particular aspects of the product as a reason they can't do it. We have to make sure that they don't cast their power to other people and saying, I can't make this decision, someone else has to make it. And then finally, when they're with themselves, they want to avoid the decision. They want to delay it. They want to not make it. I'm not going to think about it. And so the idea is that I believe that if you sell properly, you can talk to an empowered person, and you have to basically sift through the crap that they're telling themselves about why they can't decide.
The key to a good salesman is to prevent objections arising. I was in a meeting and it was with an insurance company. Well, of course, I get asked the question by the CEO, Benjamin, have you ever worked with an insurance company before? So I just went back with, so what do you mean, have I ever worked with an insurance company? He goes, and my concern would be that if you're not familiar with the ins and outs of that regulation, there's a good chance you can't help us. I said, so were you saying then that if you genuinely believed what I did would work, you can't hire me if I don't have insurance experience? He looks at me and goes, no, I'm not saying that. I go, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, obviously, if I believed what you did would work, then lack of insurance experience wouldn't be a reason why we couldn't do this. So the rule with asking a question with a question isn't not to answer. It's to only answer when I understand the true motive, the cause, or the intention behind the question. Because how can you answer a question if you don't know why it's asked? This was an example of where I got them to raise an objection, handle the objection, and move on.
Here's what I say when a prospect says, hey, I'm too busy or now's not a good time. Let me wait till later to start doing this thing. I say, listen, let's be real. There's always going to be another thing that's coming up, because now it's Christmas, then it's New Year's, then it's Easter, then it's getting ready for spring, and there's always going to be another thing, or then it's going to be Tuesday's donuts at the office. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, because the thing is that the harder the season that you're about to enter, the more realistic it is that if we get you through that, you'll be able to encounter the next one. Because if you can only be successful in perfect seasons, then we already know that this is not going to last for the long run. And you said you want to do this for the long term. So if you want to make this change sustainable and you want to make it for good, we got to start now, and we got to get through the hardest period so that we know that you're going to stick with it for good.
You want one good example of a sales question you can ask to uncover an objection from your prospect? It would be this. I could give you a ton, but I'm going to give you this little nugget. You might want to pay attention here. So let's say that you move in, you ask a commitment or closing question. Do you feel like this could be the answer for you? And the prospect answers this way with this tone. Yeah. You're simply going to say this. You seemed a bit hesitant when I asked that. And you just stop. And they're like,
yeah, I just don't know if I have the money. Or
I don't know if I can use XYZ software.
Use that question to help you uncover objections. When you hear their tone is off, okay, it triggers a red flag in your mind, and you want to uncover what concern they have. Use that next time.
Here's how to overcome any sales objection. So just remember this acronym, AIA. Acknowledge, isolate, answer, and ask. So for example, somebody says, I don't believe in life insurance. Acknowledge them. Say, totally understand that you don't believe in life insurance. It shows that you're listening, and at least to some extent, their defenses go down. Number 2, isolate. Outside of you not believing in life insurance, is there any other reason why you wouldn't get it? And number 3, answer and ask. Well, if I could show you how a life insurance policy is the financial foundation of building your financial home, similar to the way a foundation is built for a piece of real estate, would you consider buying life insurance to protect those that you love and care about? See, through this process, you're not only able to educate them, but also able to isolate any other reason why they wouldn't buy from you.